本当？見えないでしょ？どこにいるのかな？見えないよ。
What's good, Internet? It's Tuesday, March 9th, and you're listening to Waypoint Radio, episode 378. 378. I'm your host, Austin Walker. That was the voice of Cado. Also joining me today, Rob Zachney.
Good morning.
Gita Jackson.
Hello.
And Patrick Klepek.
Hello.
How are y'all doing today?
I'm somehow so chipper. That's never happened to me before.
This is a
Maybe
new
you
feeling.
you had the right coffee, just the right one to kick your ass in the morning.
This is like the nuclear waste that they serve at the bodega. So probably it's just really just jumped my brain into high gear right now.
Yeah, that sounds good, actually.
Yeah.
All right, let's
I love that bodega.
We will, quote, loop back to Gita at 4 p.m. and see how her stomach's doing. According to
Well, I
Slack
was asleep
episode.
at 4 p.m.
Wow.
God.
Perfect. How's everyone else doing? Anyone else's stomach, I guess, currently agreeing with them, future not so much.
My stomach's good. Okay, COVID's not over. Long way to go. But for me,
Yes.
COVID, the hardest parts begin to end in the next, my mom got the second vaccine on her 70th
Right.
birthday, of all days. And
Nice. Congrats. Happy birthday to Patrick's mom.
thank you. I'll pass on the message.
Yeah, please.
And then both my kids, I'll attempt to get through even just saying this without getting terribly upset, but both kids started going back to daycare on Friday.
Wow.
Which is exciting and also a very weird thing to think about. All the teachers are vaccinated at her daycare. So we've kind of done as much as we can and risk mitigation for ourselves and the place. But it's been weird. I work from home. I've gotten used to that life. The prospects in the future do not involve an office. It is this office
you
in this
were
house.
already working from home, right?
Yeah. And
You
so
were
it's
prepared
been
in any way that you can actually be prepared,
Well, right, but I guess what I mean is I was used to being fairly lonely at home.
Oh,
COVID's
sure.
terrible. COVID's awful.
Right.
In no world would I have wished it upon the world. But man, it was kind of cool to
You're really walking yourself into the antagonist of a Twilight Zone episode right now.
Yeah.
But no, it's this catch-22. It's this terrible thing that also I had my wife home every day. I had both my kids home every day, and so many things were a problem with that. It was so unideal in many circumstances. But slowly, I'm gonna tick away all of those people and back to me being at home by myself. And it's kind of bittersweet. It's that means things are getting better. It's life returning to semi-normalcy, but. It kind of sucks. I was it was really nice to have everyone around. And that's all about to change.
Buddy.
Well, you got to have the experience that a lot of working people don't have, which is being able to bond with your newborn daughter in some of the earliest stages of her life very intensely.
Yeah, I got that with our oldest, with Jessica, because I was always the dropping off, picking up from daycare. I was often with her for several hours in the morning before my mom would watch her a couple days a week. And my poor wife, she would come home from work at the 5:30 train, and I would have to poke the baby. I was you need, motherfucker, you need to be at least up to see, she left before you woke up, and now you're gonna be asleep, and she come home really upset that she missed all that stuff. And so with the new one, to be able to be around for all every milestone, but she's gonna walk in a couple of days. We're that's clearly going to happen soon. And so that'll happen at daycare. But everything else got to happen at home.
Right.
And
you got a chance to see everything, which a lot of parents don't get.
Certainly
so lucky.
Work was not going to afford that. And that's not a Vice problem. That's just that's just an America problem.
Yeah.
But to have that opportunity has been, it's those silver linings of a bad situation. That has been a really cool thing.
Yeah,
of this past year.
I think about that too a lot. Where I'm so lucky that I got to move in with my partner very early on in the pandemic, and we've had an incredible year of bonding and strengthening our relationship, and we've gotten to know each other very well. I'm very lucky that I live with my best friend, and we don't get sick of each other essentially. it's just
could have much worse situations for sure.
God, I have a couple old roommates that I'm thinking of. I thought mildly, fleetingly, like, what would it be like to experience a pandemic with them?
Different situation. Yeah.
Yeah. There's at least one situation where I'm sure it would end in a homicide.
One way or the other. Rob, how about you? How are you feeling? I feel like we've gotten check-ins. Rob, you've been quiet. I feel like there's something lingering on the edges of your...
Well, I think Rob is mad because he saw the photo that Cado posted into Slack and realized that Cado got the package that he was supposed to.
Wow!
You know,
should we talk about what that package is?
Are you allowed to say, Cado? Are you even? Is that package embargoed?
I don't think it's
that package.
If it is, they didn't tell me it was.
Okay,
so.
all right, great.
Tell Rob.
Yeah. I signed up for a digital preview for an upcoming Magic product, and
Magic the Gathering.
Magic the Gathering.
Oh, you're talking about the meats.
Yeah.
We're always talking about the meats, Rob.
And they also said, "Hey, what's your physical address so we can send you something?" And I was like, "Okay, here." And that package arrived. What was it, Friday when I posted that? And it was a small...
I truly clicked on it thinking that it would just be a pack of, maybe more than a pack, right? But like a collection of cards from the upcoming set, whatever, right?
No, it was instead a small charcuterie board with a small miniature butcher's knife to cut the little sausage they send you.
The tiny cleaver.
Yeah,
the tiny cleaver is really so incredible.
It's so funny.
With a Magic Legends branded cutting board, like miniature cutting board.
Okay, I gotta ask. How's the summer sausage?
You know, it's pretty good. We ate it all already. Like we like tore through this thing. Half of the cheese is still left, but also not pictured there. It came with crackers as well. It was the whole thing, like ready to go. Love adult Lunchables. They're delicious.
Yep.
Adult Lunchables. Look, marketing budgets need to be spent, Cado. I will not name...
I can only assume they were planning to have at some point in maybe the way past a year ago, they were planning to have like a spread at a physical event somewhere.
Sure.
And so they were just like, well, we'll use that money to send people a treat, I guess.
I've had friends who work in PR, not in video games, take me out to lunch just basically by saying like, hey, you're a journalist and I have to spend this lunch money. Like, do you want to just have a good, delicious lunch with me? And I'll tell you about the thing I have to hawk and you can just say, okay.
And they can fill out the Excel spreadsheet and
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is the, I do need to know, is the upcoming set, does it have anything to do with like charcuterie boards, or is it just unrelated?
Well,
is it like a
my
fancy party? Yeah, what's the vibe?
well,
Talk to me.
Legends doesn't even have to. So Legends is like its own video game that is like Diablo, but in it looks like, to me at least, Diablo, but in the Magic the Gathering setting, right? Third person action RPG thing. So I'm gonna see that tomorrow, actually.
Nice.
Well, the day you're listening to this, listener, so next week I'll probably have some thoughts on how that is. But no, the next set is like Harry Potter themed, kind of, which is unfortunate.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Like Teen Wizards themed, or like literally?
So they've been doing this thing. There's a set of like My Little Pony cards. There's a set of like. These are, and none of these are like standard to any tournament. This is just like, here's a fun, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Novelty set that you can collect.
Sure.
So if you like this property, here's a bunch of Magic cards that you can play at home or whatever you want to do with them.
We put the Terminator in Magic.
Yeah. You know what? Hold on. Is that one of the... So they've done like 4 of these. I forget what they all are. So what this feels like to me is that they had one of those planned for Harry Potter. And then as time went on and that development went on, more and more stuff has come out about J.K. Rowling. And it feels like to me they pulled the plug on something but had too much R&D done. And then they were like, okay, I guess we'll just make this a normal set and say like, it's not Harry Potter. And like they change. You can see the edges. It is like a magical school, but it is set. It's like they're making a new setting for it. It looks like...
Any you kids Lev Grossman fans, huh?
Yeah, let's bring the magicians into the cultural consciousness now. Let's just all idolize a bunch of shitty college students that cheat on each other and make each other sad. Let's do that.
Yeah, but like at least the magicians is like these people are fucked up. And it's not like this work is fucked up. I mean, I don't know. I haven't read that book. So
work might be a little fucked up.
The
TV show
I believe
solves a lot of that, I gather.
That's
Cool.
Anyway, I'll tell you some tea after this because I can't record. Anyway, bye.
But yeah, so that's Strixhaven. I'm not sure exactly when that's coming out, but yeah, no, I think this is literally just we had money reserved for food for this event, and therefore we're going to send people food.
Yeah, I'm not going to throw the particular company under the bus publicly, but like got a very strange email about a week ago that was like, hey, we miss, seeing your team at events. And so we've decided to try and do a bunch of virtual events, just pick up to 6 people, like associate with your team, like let us know which one you want to sign up for. In my head, I'm like, oh, I probably don't want to do this or have time for this anyway, but it's probably like, oh, hey, like if this is the kind of games you're interested in, hey, chat with X designer or producer, and it's just casual, not for coverage, just the kind of thing you would do like after an event.
Right.
No, it was like, we found this cartoonist on YouTube, and like, does you and your team want to have something drawn? Do you want to make cocktails? We'll send you a cocktail kit, and then you'll do that over
We should have done all of these.
Zoom.
What are we doing? We should have done all of these. They offered
coverage, but and they offered non-alcoholic cocktail options if you wanted to do that one. At least let you know that they covered their bases. And anyway, it was just one of those things where it was like, wow, my wife works in marketing. I get it. Like, it's got to be kind of tough where you can't plan any events, and that's part of your job is planning that stuff. But I saw that and was just like, polite decline, but also like, what are we doing here?
Oh God. Incredible. We should talk about video games. Speaking of video game events.
Right, this is a video game podcast?
This is a video game podcast. Well, I think the video game most of us have been playing is the same one. And it's I mean, I don't have Gita's numbers in it, but I've been putting some hours into Loop Hero.
Oh my God.
I first talked about probably
They loop.
a month ago. They loop. They do loop. You do a lot of loops in this game. And I actually had a friend ask me last night, what is Loop Hero? Like, what is Loop Hero? Because he'd read articles about it and it wasn't really clear necessarily.
The screenshots are madness too. You look at a screenshot, you're like, oh, what are you guys playing? Like Rogue or something? You know what I mean? Like it doesn't necessarily communicate itself particularly well on a screenshot or even a trailer. Even when you talked about it, I was like, oh, this kind of maybe seems like my thing. But it wasn't until I played it that I
got it. I'm going to just read what I said to my friend Giancarlo, and hopefully this makes sense, just to get everyone on the same page.
Okay.
You are an adventurer walking around on a loop. By default, slimes show up on the loop sometimes, and when you run into one, it goes into an active time-based style battle where your character hits the enemy, and then they hit back every second or so. You don't have any control over any of that. It just happens automatically. When you kill one of these slimes or another enemy, you get XP and then cards or equipment. Equipment gives you passive bonuses in battle, like extra damage, life stealing, counter % chances, etc. Cards are things you can play onto the tiles of the pathway or the empty space around the pathway, and those tiles generate more resources for a metagame layer, but also summon more and different enemies. And the game is based around these very focused runs. It's not like an idle game where you just walk away while your dude is going around in a circle. You're basically like paying attention, going out on runs, and trying to complete as many loops around the pathway as you can without dying. Because whenever you get back to your home tile, you can retreat with all the materials that you've gotten on that run. And if you retreat anywhere else on the path, you only bring back 60% of what you have. And if you lose in a fight, you only bring back 30%. That's the very basics of what Loop Hero is. We're not talking about tile interaction. We're not talking about different classes you unlock or builds. We're not talking about, there is a meta layer where you go back to a map and are spending the resources you've collected to build new places on your kind of home map. We're not even talking about the narrative, which is...
It's a lot.
It's a lot. The world has been destroyed but you remember bits of it, and your memory is slowly bringing it back into existence. but seemingly only for bits at a time. And also, it's great. And this is the one that I suggested this one before, and I'm gonna note this one again now that I have more detail. There's a bit in it early on where you get like a vampire mansion you can place, and when you place that vampire mansion, you're like, oh yeah, that's right, vampires. Yeah, right. We lived in a world of vampires. And it's like very nonchalant. And the thing that I only learned very recently, because I'm still much earlier in this game than I think, like, Gita, you have an obscene amount of hours in this game.
90 hours, including one accidental overnight idle. But, like, otherwise...
So 70 hours.
That's pretty accurate, yeah.
Hours. Right,
like that.
The thing that is truly, I did not know this, and I feel very foolish for not, is that the vampire mansion has a special interaction with the village, which I didn't know about.
The first time I discovered this, it completely kicked my ass, and then I did not put these tiles next to each other for another 20 hours.
Right, but then the thing is, if you can get through the, so if you put, put a very basic,
do you remember what
a very basic interaction of we go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Oh, do you remember what the hero mentions when you first find vampires?
Totally. I mean, this is the whole thing, right? It's like that the story does should have led me to believe that, but the thing that happened was I didn't play the game for 2 weeks between first encountering that and then coming back. But a very simple tile interaction, right, is like if you place meadows, which are one of your earliest cards that you get, next to basically anything, instead of just being a regular meadow, which is a thing that gives you 2 HP every beginning of every day, it becomes a blooming meadow, and a blooming meadow gives you 3 HP every day.
Oh, this explains why, because normally I've only played like 6-7 hours, but I was just like grouping the meadows in the corner. It's like I was like, but then I would use the meadows as like, oh, this is just like a throwaway resource for help. I'll put those around the treasury so I can get those bonuses. But I never quite I just assumed that was like a treasury like bonus, not an actual like, oh, you would get this putting a meadow next to any other tile, including presumably a rock and a mountain.
I feel like
all
this
of my
is the most
vampire
revealing anecdote about Patrick's thought processes that I've ever heard. Where I'm only about 6 or 7 hours into the game. Meadows can be other things.
It's easy to fall into that trap though, and if you don't experiment because you feel like I figured it out,
this is the thing to do. This is part of my core loop now. It's like I put the rocks and and create mountains up here. I put the meadows over here, and then until I get a loop that introduces an element, like forces me to be broken. Like, that's a boss.
Don't want these babies to interact.
Yeah, well, and it's also the case that this game explains preciously little about itself. I think on
really
purpose,
throws you in.
Like it to a degree that I do think it could do more to like onboard people, but at the same time, there is something exciting. Like having this conversation has illuminated. It's like, oh, that's really cool. I should have more conversations with people about what they're doing. But I can't tell, like, what is the line between, is that spoiling a natural discovery, or is it like the game really wants me to be having discussions with people, because otherwise I may get locked into a mental loop that just doesn't lead me to discover something useful.
Mental Loop Hero is a much more depressing game.
God, Intrusive Fault Hero. Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like this game does require, like, the thing that this game thematically hinges upon is the idea of secrets, right? Like the theming of this game is that the world has been forgotten, and every new thing that the hero puts down, it's as if he's put it down for the first time, but also like the living creatures, the vampires in the vampire mansion, they also remember a world, the villagers in the village, he remembers them back into existence, but they also have memory of the world. And sometimes these memories are conflict with each other. The forest, I discovered recently, has memories of the world that it will enact on you in ways that are not necessarily helpful. I think it does like require some element of secrecy, but the thing that we can do that the hero can't do is obviously collaborate with each other. Yes, I do fear that like a part of me really, really wants this game to be completely dissected, right? So I can just go to a wiki and be like, and know all the card interactions.
And just min-max, When it doesn't feel like the game really wants, like it doesn't want you to.
No.
I feel like it wants you to feel the pleasure of discovery, right?
Right. It wants you to be like, okay, so like a really good example of this is rocks and mountains, which give you
the first time
bonuses.
this happened.
Right. The first time this happens, right?
Yeah.
It gives you bonuses they give you also HP, and they give you bonuses if they're next to other rocks or mountains. And so you're like, oh yeah, I'll just keep putting them next to each other. And if you ever make a grid, a 3x3 grid, like 9 of them in a block, it immediately upgrades into a giant peak, a giant mountain, a huge mountain peak, which then will also start spawning harpies onto the field.
Yep.
And that feeling is like, yo, I didn't know this game could do this.
Yeah.
And that is really cool.
I was very
and
startled when that happened. Just like, because it's an animation, it makes this loud sound, and you're just like, what happened?
Yes.
What did I do?
Yeah.
So let me just say, though, I am passing a lot of time with this game. I'm actually not sure I'm in love with it yet because of some of these issues. So the thing, you mentioned the idle game comparison, and you're right, there are important differences there. This requires a lot of active engagement and like monitoring of things, but also in some ways, not really. Like, you generally know, oh, I just got a newer, better item, I'm just going to equip that. There's not really a choice about, at least where I'm at, I'm not really thinking about like, boy, I hope I can spec out this character in a particular way. It's just kind of like the loot drops. It becomes the loot chasing game. But I think the other element of this, Gita, when you were talking about like, you kind of don't want the wiki, but also maybe you kind of do. And in some ways, like just knowing how this shit would work, I am like, okay, so once I've had these realizations, is there all that much there for me? What it reminds me a lot of is like games like Candy Box or A Dark Room, is it Warm Room?
No, dark room is
Dark
right.
Room? Yeah.
Yeah, at least the first one was a dark room. Yeah.
But then you make it a warm room and then all hell breaks loose. It's awesome. but it reminds me a little bit of those in that so much of the game is just obscuring pretty straightforward interactions. And you just sort of like, you're entering different combinations into a keypad to see if something eventually happens. And it is cool when it does, but also sometimes I'm like, man, I just spent like 3 hours just putting cards next to each other and like seeing what shit would happen. And I'm not sure I love that.
Okay, so what I have to say about that is someone who is now I opened up Act 3 over the weekend.
Ooh.
And
Are the acts split by bosses? Like,
Yes.
They're split by bosses. You can go back and farm stuff from the previous acts, and in fact, I think I would recommend that because the thing that I started feeling that sort of like pushback to from the game, Rob, where I was like, I just spent like 3 hours just putting things down on a board, and I like don't know what I'm gaining from this. So I started digging deep into whether or not there are cards I could unlock. So when you're on the loop, you're gathering resources and you bring it back to this village and you can use those resources there. And you use the resources to build out this town. And I didn't look at it very much because it is sort of like a side loop to the game. You know, it's like a hub that you go to where you can just sort of look at what you have. And in the beginning of the game, it doesn't have a lot there and it's not very interesting. But I started looking at what I can use those resources to do in that town. And it turns out that you can radically change how the game plays and how your character plays by looking at the cards that you can unlock and changing your decks. So then I started thinking about how to maximize power for each thing. And it is actually really fun to discover the ways that you can build out these characters, especially concerning what makes each class like different from each other. So you can unlock classes by building these buildings as well. I've unlocked 2. I don't know if there's any more. I think there's only 2 other classes other than Warrior. Warrior is like the all-around class. Rogue is, it's got 2 daggers and it's all about critical hits, essentially. And Necromancer allows you to summon enemies to fight for you. Skeletons, essentially. And that one is really interesting to play with and very fun to try to figure out how to make it the most effective enemy, the most effective character you can. Because
an idle game in which you have a class in which you can get things to fight for you, like just layers of idle.
Yeah, essentially. And it really is. It's like a numbers go up game. Essentially, I played with the Necromancer for a long time and couldn't get it to like work beyond just the first loop, essentially. And like the first stage. What makes the stages harder than each other? Also, if you mouse over the enemies, you can see in the second and third stages, they have additional powers as opposed to just one attack that they do in the first stage. So by the time you get to the third stage, the enemy will have not just one, like a basic attack, but like one status effect and then something else. So all these things become a web of interactions that are pushing and pulling on each other. So you do have to think a lot about, well, if I bring this kind of character here, like, so for example, here's a good example, actually. Necromancer has vampirism innately. So most characters, I've been using the Vampire Mansion tiles to get some free health back, essentially, because that grants everything within that radius vampirism. But I would plant a whole bunch of Vampire Mansion tiles on when I was using Necromancer, and I would be like, I'm losing health all of a sudden. What is that? What's happening? I had been using the synergy between the Necromancer tiles and the swamps with each other, and I hadn't realized. Swamps make vampirism actually deadly to any creature that has vampirism. So you
any
lose
healing
health.
effect, in fact, right?
Yeah.
Any healing
Oh,
effect. in a
no.
swamp
Except for
kills you.
potions, yeah.
Oh, that
Except for
explains
potions.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's the complications as it gets so much more expansive is that what makes this game so interesting. Because there's always one thing you didn't think about. It's the same issue I get from Dwarf Fortress, I think, where it allows you to master one level, and then it's like, here's another step into this basement of video game. Here's another step. And then
I do
you
keep thinking.
do get out of your
Go ahead.
depth in certain points, and like that's where the excitement of discovery comes for me in this late game period.
It's stuff like that that makes me think, yes, optimal builds per map, or there might not be an optimal build, but there are definitely more optimal builds than what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And as long as that space exists between where I'm at and some hypothetical ceiling that gets filled in by more information, and as long as, and this is the big ask, right, is like, once I have that information, once I know, for instance, and this was the thing I was setting up before, was like, hey, when you put a vampire mansion next to a village, it transforms that village into a ransacked village. But if you complete 3 loops, it then becomes the council lands. And that ends up being really good at healing you compared to a village.
Yeah.
A village is like a decent healing space, right? And so like that, for example, is one way that's one piece of knowledge I have now. And what I'm hoping for, and what seems to be the case, is even with that knowledge, I'm still making decisions about whether or not to pursue that particular strategy when I get a village card in my hand, or if I want to do something else in a given run. And that's very low level shit. That is not, this is like, I'm in Act 2. I've unlocked, the like second tier of things to unlock inside of my home village. And so like there is not, my guess is, Gita, that by the third tier, when you've completely when you've learned so many more of these types of interactions, I can imagine there being a lot more like choice making happening. Though I will say the one thing that to Rob's earlier point, the one thing that does feel like it isn't about me is sometimes it's just you get the right shit. You get the battlefield card that spawns a treasure chest once a loop, and you get another one of those, and they're like, okay, well, I'm just going to be kitted out because I'm going to have these treasure chests guaranteed, and I'm going to be able to like roll through this shit. And the run where I ended up beating the first boss was the most it felt incredible because I was just kicking ass, but it didn't feel like I'd made particularly good decisions that led me to that. It felt like the dice just rolled really well.
That's what happened to me. Was like I was like blissfully unaware of many of these interactions we are talking about because, and I should say, situationally, part of that is because the first time that I played the game was sitting at my computer and I had 2 reactions. One was like, this seems really interesting. 2, I do not want to sit in my office chair and play this game.
That's real.
And without getting I'm definitely a Switch port beggar. Like, ban me, block me. Like every time I play a game like this, I'm like just put this in something more convenient. And I'm sure it'll come there eventually. And my thought was like, oh, unfortunately, because of just like the place mentally, psychologically I'm in, I am just not going to sit and play this type of game for like 30, 40 hours in my office. Maybe I'll just have to wait and see if it comes somewhere else. So then I just started like running through like different ways I could circumvent that in the meantime, which was like one, trying through Steam Link, and then later trying through GeForce Now, because they both have like sort of like rudimentary mouse support on an iPad, and was able, because you can pause and play this game on command, which allows you to like both plan and give yourself breathing space. Like I have largely played this game like watching TV shows like, like Pen 15 on Hulu, and then like pausing, like laughing at a joke, and then like going back to a loop, and doing it. It's not perfect, but if you don't have a PC, if you like, you can like buy this game on Steam, sign up for GeForce Now, and it doesn't work perfectly, but that's what I've played most of my 10 hours into this. But anyway, like that's all to say, part of the way I'm playing this is like, I'm like half paying attention, which is, I think, like also been one reason I haven't like picked up on certain things, because I'm kind of just like drag. And the loop that I had where I beat the boss was one where all of a sudden I'd set myself up where like I was like, when I go to the village, like when I get to the end of the loop, I'm leaving. And then all of a sudden I'd like set myself up where I was like, I went from having like a third health where I don't know if I'm going to make it to the end to I've just now completely healed myself and like I can't be hurt. And I'm like thinking back, like, what did I do? And I'm like, not 100% sure what I did to like get myself in that spot. Like I know it's a combination of like pushing towards vampirism, yada, yada, yada. And then that's the only reason I barely beat the boss. Like I just unlocked potions, so I had a little bit extra health, and I had like hardcore vampirism, and like just like 2 hits ahead of like dying to the boss, like made it through. And it was satisfying, but I agree also that I also had a feeling of, I don't know that I would like sit down and go, now what did we learn, Patrick? And it's like, well, sometimes you have a good run and then you unlock some things in the base and you hope that you get, but I also, that's still fun for me, right? Like I think part of what this game can, like, I don't think I'm ever going to achieve Gita enlightenment on this game. Gita talks about this game in the way that like Danielle frequently talked about like Into the Breach, in which like a game just sort of like crawls into your brain and like is just firing on all cylinders. I'm still enjoying this game. I think we'll continue to get 20, 30 hours of enjoyment, just casually upgrading, getting more powerful, having good runs. And maybe I'll just hit a point where, you know what, I would really have to knuckle down to like see the end game, but I'll still have had like a really satisfying amount of time with it without necessarily finishing. I don't know, but that's kind of where I see my arc with the game at the moment.
Can I call something out here that I really do appreciate?
No.
Setting aside my fuck you, Zachney. You decided to take the negative corner, so now you get to sit out the rest of this conversation.
Own it.
Yeah.
No. I enjoy the little snippets of fiction and dialogue we get in this as well. Like a game like this is going to live and die on theme and world building and like flavor. And this is the one thing where like I do think this can be kind of a simple game if you strip a lot of this out, but you can't strip theme out of games. Theme is the game, and like this game nails it. Like the first time you meet a vampire is a cool fucking exchange where like, first of all, like vampires? Oh yeah, there were vampires. And then there's like this weird almost like medieval social order that they sort of try to justify, where it's like, well, no, the vampires make the world good just by existing and taking people's resources and eating them. And your character, who is just the most adorable little like Landsknecht centrist, is just like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, vampires are probably good. We probably do need some vampires around here. But I do enjoy the sense of like every single new concept or new character that walks onto the stage, we get a cool interaction that tells you both something about maybe the world that existed and also a lot about the way these characters regard their places in it and their relationships to each other, which I really like.
Totally. The conversation with the harpy is like, some what if the monsters could speak 101 stuff, but it still is solid to have your character be like, was the world really such that even though, I can see where the situation this harpy is in is bad for her, nevertheless, I'm going to have to fight her, and she's going to have to fight me, even though we can kind of see that our respective positions are kind of fucked. And the answer is like, yeah, and your little dude just goes like, shrug, like, all right, go into the battle mode.
Whack.
Yeah, and like that theming does totally work. Also, it's like a very pretty game for the style that it's going for. It very much looks pulled out of like. This is a DOS game I found in a bin in 1992, and it was like thrilled to boot up.
It is so beautiful. The pixel art in this game is so beautiful. The opening cinematic alone is just gorgeous. The boss battles, I think, are some of the most beautifully animated like pixel art I've seen in a really long time. Especially the second boss with all the mirrors.
Ooh, I've not gotten there yet. I need to get. I'm still losing in Act 2 is where I am currently.
Oh boy,
I am curious. I do, because I don't want to go into too spoiler territory, but I do want to sort of cast a question to the 90-hour range of this, where I'm like, right now I see a lot of markers being put down of like, your character is the definition of an unreliable narrator, and you've got an unreliable narrator like reshaping the world. But also you have this notion of some of these beings do remember themselves, and they also have their own take on reality. I'm curious, like, as the acts unroll, do they begin weaving these threads together into a fiction that is gripping?
Yes. The second boss is a place where you will really see that more definitively, and I highly recommend unlocking all the encyclopedia entries for that boss. Did you guys get the encyclopedia yet? Because
I got an encyclopedia.
Oh my god!
There's an encyclopedia.
Yeah,
you
can. Every single thing that you can place in the game has an entry in the encyclopedia, and you can unlock multiple entries for them. Most of the creatures have 3 different encyclopedia entries, and like what I love most about them is it isn't just like here's a literal explanation of what this fucking thing is. It's like, you know, here's a bit of a proverb for the first entry for the skeleton, and
they're Destiny lore cards.
They're Destiny lore cards. Yes. There's really like the one for the second boss is a series of diary entries, and they're very, very enigmatic and well written, and they give you like just like the rest of the game gives you just a touch of like, oh, here's the gothic horror that lurks beneath the surface of this fun little game where your little man walks in a circle. It's the same spirit of you don't need to know too much, just enough. And like that's scarier than everything else. The creepiness, really the cosmic horror of this game is really great.
I also feel like because that is down the build tree a ways. Like the Intel Center, which is what unlocks the encyclopedia, is kind of like this.
Oh, that's what I'm saving up for.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's that. This moment of like, oh, there's a whole other tree behind this one thing. Yeah. But I think it's important to try, especially once you hit the second level, to start focusing on building more than necessarily being the boss, because you probably won't until you have unlocked a few of these other things.
I will say specifically for the second level, there is a card that changes. There are more cards that will meaningfully change your stats as a hero in ways that will make you so much more powerful. And like they're little things that you might not pay attention to, but there's one card in particular that will change the stat, like a resource card that will change the stats of your hero in a particular way. And as soon as you get it, place as many as fucking possible.
Does that deck building aspect start to become much more of a choice you're making between each expedition? Because right now it's like I'm still up against so many of the requirements that I'm basically like, the choice I'm making is like, Vampire Mansion sounds cool. I guess I'll dump the swamp and bring the Vampire or something like that.
Right.
And so I'm still at the phase where I'm not like, there's deck building, but I'm not really like having a lot of interesting choices to build.
There's not.
Does the ceiling on cards ever go up also?
Yes.
Just to add on to
the
that.
ceiling on cards doesn't go up, I think.
Okay.
Cado, do you know?
It's always 12.
How long have you played Cado? Because I know you hit up the demo.
Yeah, no, let's see. What does my hours say now? Not as much as you, I think. Let's see. I've played for 19 hours.
Okay. I don't know what the fuck I did. What? Jesus Christ. But yeah,
could a depressed person do this?
Hello, it's March and I have seasonal depression. Sitting in this little dark cave I call my office playing this game. Yeah, you will always be able to bring between 7 and 15 cards, but you will unlock at least one more type of card, I will say, that changes the choices you'll be making. And these cards are very, very powerful, and you only get one of them. And not only that, but like, because card interactions become so important to the game, you really do have to start building decks around the interactions you want to occur. And that is really exciting.
Yeah, I really like it. It's really sharp. It's like one of those games that there was a lot of preview hype for, and there's sometimes games where you can tell that the PR team on the game is really like, no, listen, I know I send you a lot of emails. This is real shit. This shit is like, I am personally very hyped about this. And that was the energy around this game for like months in a way that like made me, not months, maybe months. And I was like, okay, we'll fucking see. And then, you know what I fucking saw?
I believe this was a game where they sent the code like extremely early. Like, hey, like just here's the preview. Like, just what you need more codes. Like, yeah.
I slept on all the codes. I was like, everyone seems to have it. Like, it seems other people will have this. And then by Friday, I was like, okay, I just got to play this game now. It's only $12.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn,
it's extremely affordable.
not a bad deal.
It's for the hours I've put into it, it's extremely affordable.
Yeah, what is let's do the math on that. Can't do it. Not even numbers. I guess they're both even numbers, but
no, fuck
not
that.
even the way I
math
need them to
is
be.
fake and I don't respect it.
It's true. Also, you're not done yet. We can't really do the math until you finish, and then we can do the math, and then we'll know.
I'm excited to keep playing this game.
Wait,
you know, it feels like it's full of secrets, like Gretchen Wiener's hair. You know, like it's just got a lot more for me to uncover. I'm not even like, I feel like I'm not close to the end, which feels very good.
Gita, how many classes have you unlocked total? Like how
only
many options?
The 3 total. Only Necromancer, Rogue, and Warrior.
Okay. Well, because I'm flipping through there, and like, you know, the equipment screen is like this little grid of like, here's a spot for a helmet, gloves, whatever. I still haven't gotten anything or have upgraded anything that lets me equip helmets or gauntlets, which means there must be more, right?
There is a card that will allow you to unlock one more slot for equipment. But what slot it unlocks varies per character class, which is interesting. Cool. I don't know if there's any more of that because there's some of those where like I just have never seen that equipment type ever, and it hasn't unlocked for anyone. I do feel like this is a thing where like, oh, a free update, here's a new character class. It would be like a very easy thing for them to do, to slot into this. Well, not very easy. No, this game seems incredibly complicated. Yeah. Just like, there's the Gita class. It just says I'm Gita. Yeah, I just feel like there's the potential for the depth to this game is what really surprised me, I would say. This felt like one of those games when I first heard about it, when Patrick slipped the code in our code Slack, I felt like one of those games like that might be like very wide and like very interesting because of its expansiveness. Like it's sort of like a good, like high concept idea, but I didn't realize like how deep it was going to be in terms of just how everything slots into each other. This is absolutely like Virgo food if you are a kind of person that plays games like that. Fucking love it. It's a great game.
All right, we should take a break. We've been going on Loop Hero for a minute now, so we will be right back. All right, we are back. Patrick, you have been playing Maquette, which is a first-person puzzle thing. I remember a trailer. Things get big, things get small. Here's my pitch.
I mean, for a lot of people, I think it's, Annapurna released a new game. Like, that's like a publisher at this point that, at least for my money, is, you know, I don't need to know. If I see the logo, I'm interested. Like, they're just a studio that, like, has a very selective aesthetic, you know, it's, you know, got very like A24 but for video games vibes.
Comparison half jokingly, but also
no, like the only thing they're missing is like the, you know, what are they, the bullshit term that Hollywood's come up with, elevated horror.
Oh yeah,
it's like, you like horror movies now, so you need to come up with something except the genre that it has.
When horror movies were not arty though, like Suspiria, come on.
I was gonna say, yeah. Once you start
that also pisses me off. That's all I was gonna say.
Yeah. So that's all actually, you know, Annapurna, like, let's go. Like, where, you know, if you want to be the A24 video games, like, you also need your high art horror game. Maquette's, it kind of, I remember seeing this game years ago, and then it seemed like it kind of just snuck out the door recently. I think maybe there's a reason for that. It's all right, is what I would say. Yeah, it is a game about like big objects, small objects, like the pitch is it's this the story is very loose, and like it seems like it was kind of difficult to like integrate into what they were trying to do here. It's the gameplay concept is you like have a small, almost like dollhouse at the center, and like outside of that is like a bigger version of that dollhouse, and like the environment shifts as you're going from area to area, like from like level to level, and so like what surrounds what makes up that dollhouse like changes, and so you can take objects and you can change their shape by like bringing them from like different areas to the other, like bringing it to the small dollhouse, bringing it to the if you take something small, put it in the small dollhouse. When you go to the bigger area in the bigger dollhouse, it's big. So like a key that can be used to open a door can suddenly become like a bridge that can get you from one side to the other. It's a really neat idea that in execution doesn't work nearly as well as you would like. The controls are very finicky. It seems there's just not enough puzzles that have like the kind of aha that you would want from a game like this. There are those moments, but too much of it is kind of just mixed up with kind of like aimless wandering, and I don't know. It feels kind of like a mess. It's a really smart idea that I think it feels like at some point they just kind of threw their hands up and went, I guess this is like as far as we can take this, because it's kind of a, I don't know, kind of a mishmash. Is that where the review landed, Rob? I know that we
Lewis Gordon pitched it to us, and he was like, I was really stoked for this game, but I feel like this is one of the first real misses for me from Anna Perna.
Yeah.
And his sort of take on it, there were kind of two levels. One is that what you're describing there, it is a cool like conceit for puzzles. The sort of logic game of a thing's big over here, small over here. That's cool, but the thing that it's at odds with is it's supposed to be this exploration of a character's interior life, and it's supposed to be very like dreamlike. The parallel is like a Charlie Kaufman film. But the problem is that adventure game puzzles aren't really dreamlike. They're actually very
they're
restrictive.
rigidly logical, sometimes in ways that are difficult to understand.
They have a logic. It might be asshole logic, but it's still a logic that is like
a throwback to like LucasArts adventure games. It's like, is this a puzzle space where the player is going to experiment and discover something, or are you just trying to figure out what the designer wrote? And Maquette absolutely feels like so rigidly figure out what the designer wants you to do, not hey. Isn't this idea of like big object, small object, that you can do anything with that, but actually what you should do is just this one thing, and that's the only thing we want you to do. I mean, you can futz around and like do other things, but they're not like gonna lead you anywhere. We still need you to do the one thing. And that one thing can be still clever, but it often feels, I've mentioned this podcast before, I'm like not a big puzzle person, but yeah, I still like to play the games, but then just allow myself to look up walkthroughs, and like I just kind of like have that tension.
The gentleman's puzzle game player.
Well, it's just my brain's just not like, and this game is all shapes, and like my brain don't like shapes, just like never has, never will. But I just go in knowing like I'm just gonna keep my frustration minimal. If it feels like I can't figure it out, like I've exhausted all of my options, I'll look it up. And like more often than not in Maquette, it's constantly been like, yeah, you know what? Not even close to what I was thinking. And that, I think part of that is the game's rigid structure. I think part of that is just my brain. But I do think I have, reading other reviews, to like try and like confirm my own biases against critiques against the game. It seems like that has also been a feeling, is that like it sets up a large possibility space, but it like the actual actionable possibility space is like pretty small.
The thing I just quickly want to say is like before we move off this point is this has always been one of the troubles for me and this style of puzzle game when I think about something like Antechamber or even Superliminal, which I think is a good comparison point to this game in terms of
and I think people
a game I think not enough people probably played, but that I still didn't fully click with. But when I think about something like the Portal games, like the thing that those games do really well is somehow it still feels like you're expressing yourself when you do a puzzle solution. Even though what you're doing is a solution that was probably pre-planned to begin with,
well, it still somehow gives you that like an accident.
Hey, yes,
or
exactly.
You cheated. Like
yes,
I'm not supposed to do it this way, and of course, like they know. Yeah, okay, like we know
you that probably did it the way. Yeah, unless you're like a high-level super speedrunner who's figuring out some shit, you know. Then yeah. So anyway, Rob, you had a thing.
Well, The other thing that interests me is that Patrick hasn't talked about the story at all, but the conceit of this game is that you're exploring a character's mind in the wake of a breakup. This game tells the story of a relationship between two characters, Michael and Kenzie, who their relationship is now over, and it is sort of Michael's reflection on their shared past and his grief at the passing of this relationship. And I am curious if that you haven't brought it up, Patrick. Like, did it register for it? Did it resonate?
Well, do you want to
all?
read some text on a wall, like read by like famous Hollywood actors? Then
Wow.
this is the game for you. I mean, you know, I like what's I forget the actress who's in it.
Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yes, and she's great. Like, she has a beautiful voice. She does a great job in it. But it's like constantly what this game is you going like turning a corner, and it's like there's some text on the wall that is said beautifully by Bryce Dallas Howard and whoever is the guy in the story. Like, it's fine, but it feels like at times like this could be like a satire of an artsy video game. Which I think is only to speak to like where this genre or like kind of like style of game has ended up, where like you can get to the point where that like text on the wall like was a novel way of telling a story, and has now gotten to the point where you got to kind of justify like why we're doing this, and it just feels like the gameplay concept was come up first. A story needed to be put in to justify why you're doing it. When really, look, like the puzzles, if the game was just more straightforward and said, we've made some puzzles, here's some cool looking spaces, I think like it would have like almost landed better than like we're going to try and like force in this story, which is like, at least, you know, I think I'm like a little over halfway through. It's not a long game. Like, depending on how far you take with the puzzles, I think it's like 4 or 5 hours at most, less than if it clicks for you fast. You know, I haven't, you know, it clearly headed for sadness is like, you know, like the game sets that up pretty like quickly as like, haha, things are too happy, like not gonna stay this way. You know, I'm waiting for like the cancer curveball or something like, it just seems like it's the kind of game that's going to set up for like, I'm going to turn a corner and there will be, instead of text, it will be like, you know, a heart rate monitor at a hospital. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I can feel like I can see some of the beats coming in a way that, it makes it that I'm not really there for the story. The other thing that it does is, this is part of like the bonus you're getting of like working with Annapurna is that you're going to get access to Hollywood talent. Like that is part of what they do, right? Like when they teamed up with, was it the, it was the game where like you search Sam Barlow, right? It's like his second game that he did with Annapurna suddenly had a bunch of like notable Hollywood talent, which is cool. Like mashing up those worlds for these kind of cinematic experience, like artsy games. Like I'm here for. And one of the other things that is present in this game is like, like they spent money on a soundtrack. Like we went and got like real bands, and like you're gonna hear some really cool indie tunes like as you're going around. But what would constantly happen is that like I'd get to a new area, like listen to like a conversation between these characters, and it would drop me into space, and it's like, boom, here's like, listen to this music and like go start solving that puzzle. And I like wouldn't know what to do. And it's like, hey man, like I need like a couple minutes to like scope this space out. And it's clearly trying to stretch.
Music runs for 2 minutes 47 seconds, Patrick. Think faster.
I don't know if the song has been like artificially like extended in like to try and justify like getting the player through the first step, but like I would always outlast it. And then it was actually kind of depressing to be like the game would like slowly fade the music out, and it's like, all right, I guess you're not gonna get it, bro. So like, just we're gonna turn the music off, and you could just like figure it out, I guess.
The Jeopardy theme crossfades in.
Yes.
God.
Yeah, I mean, this was the thing. Like, Lewis wrote, like for him, the soundtrack was one of the giveaways where it's like, this is more Garden State than Charlie Kaufman.
Yeah, that's a Garden State is a good touchstone.
And that's, and the weird thing is like, at a time and place that was awesome, and
I loved Garden State, and then it came to loathe myself and Garden State,
sure.
Hey, where did I learn about the shins? Like from Garden State.
Yeah,
like, you know what? It happens.
I was in high school. I was a freshman in high school in fucking Connecticut when Garden State came out. I had no choice but to stand. You know,
It had a
there
great
was no
soundtrack.
option
Natalie
for me.
Portman with her headphones, like,
God,
you know, I had
the
a crush.
song will
Let's
change
go.
your
It
life,
happens.
and it did.
I liked where he really figured out that he could get over her epilepsy and make it work. He really jumped on that grenade, I think. And
I don't even remember that's what the movie was about. So that explains a lot.
That's their big hurdle. That's their big hurdle.
That's the big thing.
Is that she has epilepsy?
Yeah, you killed your mom accidentally? Well, get a load of this. I have epilepsy.
I have a neurological condition.
But you really got to hear this. God.
I hate
Anyway,
that movie so much.
that's
Now imagine that, but there's
But
like
it's a video
10 minutes
game.
of puzzling, and then you read half of a scene on a wall, I guess, is like kind of, that's the other part, it doesn't have any flow.
No, and because it's like there's scenes on the wall, but then there's also like you'll finish an act, like a very clear delineation of like this is the end of a chapter, and then we get a black screen and we get like fancy drawings with also those. I mean, it's a mess. Like I don't think it's not worth playing.
Noble failure. Noble failure though.
Yeah, like it's interesting. But I don't, it's also got weird technical, like it has a native PS5 version that runs like crap. Like the frame rate is all over the place. I thought it was just like
a PS Plus.
Well, at least then, it's part of the sub as opposed to, paying for it separately. It's a little more justifiable. And I think they'll probably iron it out with a patch or two. But like, it's so weird. Like the frame rate it's a game that, I don't know, I hate to use the word should, but like there doesn't seem to be like a reason why it shouldn't be running like, 4K 60 or at least a locked 30. And it's not. And then I was like, oh, well, maybe there's like a performance mode. Like maybe I can just like err on the side of that. So I go into the settings and there's graphic settings. Like, okay, great. The only options there are like, do you want your textures at high, medium, or low? And I was like, this is a console game. Like, what? And so I switched it. It's just like, it didn't have a meaningful impact on the frame rate. It was just like, you want these textures to be clear or muddy? Like, how you feeling today? And it's just very, I almost feel like that like little strange like piece is almost like the microcosm for like just like a sprawling weirdness of the game itself. And maybe like its existence is itself like on the continuum of, when you look at, like the developers have gone home, like what they're doing with like their upcoming third project, like where games of this type have come from. Like, I just think like we've kind of like moved past like a Maquette would have been like
shut down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or they made like a VR game. Like they're not doing what they used to do. Right? I feel like we've kind of moved past this style of game, and this feels like a game that would have been lauded and beloved. Like, and I would have been sitting and being here like pounding the table for this game.
6 years ago or something.
Yeah, 6 years ago. Not even that long ago.
Yeah,
maybe 8.
yeah.
Time is weird, but there was a time where this would have fit, and it feels like a game out of time, and not in like a fun nostalgic sort of way. It just sort of feels like like. We don't
and
really
now you're sitting here being like, this thing doesn't run at lock 30? Fuck this game.
Exactly. What console games that you choose low, medium, and high textures with no performance impact? It's so weird.
I mean, the thing here, though, too, is like if these puzzles were working for you, if the storytelling was working for you, you would not even be like, oh, yeah, there's some weird stuff with the performance, but it's worth it. Da, 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 da. And if the fact that that's not happening, says a lot, so.
Yes, it is. It is not the next, Outer Wilds, unfortunately.
Right.
Wait, what few things are.
What very few things are. Anyone else want to? Rob, you have been bringing this game to the table now for weeks.
No, I
only
just
had one
I
podcast
just
a
lay
week,
out the
and I
banquet
think
table, and
you really
can
do.
take
This is a game that I got an email, and I said sometimes I put a code for anyone to take, and other times it's a code for a person, and like this is Rob.
Talk to me about King Arthur Knight's Tale.
Tell me everything, Rob Zachney. Tell me everything.
Okay. So this is actually fascinating, and I love this. Okay, so Neocore is a studio that is basically like art department led, art first, gameplay.
Oh,
distant
really?
Second.
Okay. You don't hear that very often in games, at least, I guess.
Yeah, and so years ago, I think they were partnered up with Paradox, and they were making King Arthur, the role-playing war game. And it was a Total War take on the story of King Arthur, but with all the fantasy shit cranked up to the max. Like, there's versions of like King Arthur can be like, oh, it's sort of a medieval idol, or you can like hit the fairy fae sliders all the way and be like, yo, the she is coming through and King Arthur better be ready. They went that direction with it. Mm-hmm. It was a really frustrating game because as a Total War imitator, it didn't really work. Like it didn't really have a campaign layer. You had Total War style battles, but you didn't like build up your army in that way. It was just kind of your army grew with the plot. And I didn't really like the second one of these they made, but it had moments, right? There were moments where I was like, damn, this game looks incredible. I think still to this day, like there's maybe cooler beats in there than you even find in the Total War Warhammer games. Like a thing that sticks in my mind is a huge battle takes place at Hadrian's Wall in that first game. But here, the version is like the Emperor Hadrian knew that in the north of Britain, that is where the Fey peoples like had made their stronghold, and they wanted to come through and like create chaos in the realm of men. And so like Hadrian's Wall is this arcane, like fucked up gothic battlement, and you are fighting in the shadow of this thing against creatures you've never seen before, and it was like really cool. It was like it was an interesting beat, even if the game didn't really do that many interesting things in terms of like the meta layer. So that was like 10 years ago. I don't know what they've been doing since then. Then, yeah, Patrick posts this code. It turns out it's stemming from a Kickstarter game. I was like, cool. Like, I'd be interested to see where they've gone with this idea. Well, it seems like between then and now, somebody played XCOM. And so the Total War style game appears to be gone. And now it takes place where you are Modred, and you wake up and you're like kind of undead. Like you had sort of the big apocalyptic battle with Arthur. Everybody died. All the knights died. Modred and Arthur both die. Arthur was, taken to the lake and the sword tossed in there, and she grabs it.
That's the thing.
The King Arthur
stuff.
shit.
Yeah, the stuff that happened in history. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So with this,
the stuff from Transformers Age of Extinction.
Yes.
This game takes place in an alternate history where Modred wakes up like 5 minutes later as sort of a reanimated, not undead, but like just, he's, it's not clear what he is. And he wakes up in a prison, and he's basically told, okay, the same thing happened to Arthur. Arthur is now an undead, like Lich King. And because this is all your fault, you got to go deal with this. Now walk across the square grid and go take care of business. And so you meet other characters from the King Arthur stories, and you're making choices about like, are you still going to be the same shitty Modred you were back then? Or are you going to be cool now? Have you learned your lesson?
Now that everyone's died and become undead?
Yeah. Well, it's more like the world is still like there are people in the world.
Okay.
And so you come across like villages living in this like hellhole. And the first thing you do, and it's an early access demo, but like it seems like you ally with a few knights who begrudgingly are willing to work with you to sort of put the world to right. And then you go to you go back to Camelot, start rebuilding it. You start building your hub area, and you go out on missions.
Okay.
As an XCOM tactics game, it's like classic Neocore problems of game looks all right. It looks a little bit like an RPG source book in ways that are good and bad. Just a little bit like dated, I think, in terms of the aesthetic. A little bit fancy grimdark is the way I would put it.
Sure.
And if you get past that, if you're past that and you're looking at like, well, what's the game? It's XCOM with swords and like crossbows and a more granular like action point system and character abilities. But nevertheless, like I'm playing it and it just doesn't feel bad. Like I've played XCOM clones that just feel awful. This doesn't. But at the same time, I'm sort of straining to find like, but what's really interesting in these tactical spaces? You can fire off your major character. Like, so the big thing seems to be this is a game of positioning, where it's like character abilities are really range dependent, and they can like build up like power and ability as it's in some ways it reminds me a little bit of Fights in Tight Spaces, in that there's a lot of places where you really want somebody parked in the exact right spot at the start of a turn so that they can burn one of their major abilities, and sort of also control the location of enemies. There's a lot of that. It's not bad. It's decently implemented as these ideas go, but also they're really familiar. And so I'm like, I am hoping it's a very early access game. It's like just a few levels, but it is also like appears to be kind of feature complete. Like, this is going to be the game. It's just going to be more of this. And it's like a competent tactics game.
Yeah.
With a vibe that will leave some people really cold, and some people will be like, yeah.
But you have to imagine
Camelot's dark.
But exactly. That's the thing, though, right? It's like you have to imagine a game like this, based on what you're saying about it being an art-led studio. To some degree, that's their bet. Their bet is some people will be happy with, hell yeah, this is Dark Camelot. And like, if that's what they want to make, it sounds like they're making one of those. I don't know. These designs seem like they fit the bill. They're not this. I'm looking at gameplay. This doesn't do much for me, but like, I don't expect it to. It would have to be the sort of tactical thing where like, whoa, there's some really innovative design work happening here for me to be hyped about grimdark King Arthur shit at this point.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like at that point, it's almost like, fuck it, do the thing that you were going to do, talk to that audience. Don't worry about me, you know?
Mm-hmm. Because maybe if you make the thing you're going to do and it's really, really good, I'll be into it anyway. You know, it's always how I feel when I see a game like this, where it's like, wow, almost, but not quite. Convince me is what I always want to, what I want to feel, you know?
Yeah, totally.
I do have a little bit of nostalgia for this game and this art style, because like it was early in my career when I played one of these. So I'm like, hey, look at these guys. I remember these dudes. But at the same time, I'm also like, you know how sometimes, I think this is especially true of like medieval or fantasy combat tactics games, where if you don't play your cards right, you can end up with a feeling of everything feeling like a big scrum.
I was saying, so everything comes together, and it's like, just the thing that XCOM, the contemporary XCOM tactics games figured out was that by putting things at a distance and then using covered nodes, basically, you could make things really legible for a wider audience. And looking at gameplay from this and thinking about a lot of other medieval style tactics games that do not have very quick deaths on either side, and things just have huge hit point pools or big armor values or whatever, it just becomes a bunch of people hitting each other over and over in in succession, and things kind of eventually falling out, and one side's won and one side's lost. It's why I think something like, Fire Emblem doesn't really have that problem, because characters die really quickly. You get 2 or 3 hits on someone, they can fucking die. So you don't get that like mess, that like almost like melange of people. But looking at this, that seems to be the way fights go. I see like 8 people around. This is like a zombie fight, so of course that's what's going to happen. But yeah, exactly.
There's a little bit of like your crew rolls up on somebody in a parking lot and like, get his ass, and everyone just rushes him.
All right, I'm in
and that's
now.
how all the fights. That's how all the fights play out. Where it's like they're all in armor. You got to crack through the armor value. So like multiple turns pass with just all your buddies just being like, and I'm gonna bash him from behind. And it's like, yeah, I'm gonna smash him in the face. I'm gonna use my shield bash ability. And it's like, you're just watching it play out. You're just like, wow, you're just kicking the shit out of this one dude. And then in a minute, once he's dead, everyone's gonna turn and be like, all right, who's also the nearest character? And we're gonna get him too.
Yeah, that's like fun once,
Yeah.
So it goes. Well, thank you for finally giving us our King Arthur update. I do have a King Arthur, a more broad question, Rob, which is, this game wants it to be written Mordred, but you're saying Modred. Is this a deeply held, like, Arthurian position of yours in terms of what the proper way of pronouncing his name is?
No, it's just when
I know it's written both ways over various sources and stuff, but I didn't know if you had like a... Okay.
I always thought Mordred sounded cooler, but for whatever reason, I think the first few times I encountered it in a situation where I'd be graded on shit. It was Modred, and so it just kind of stuck.
Ain't that the fucking way of how this all works? Yeah,
I can't even remember like which version does Tennyson use, which version does Mallory use, which version does the fucking musical use. I don't know.
The three great Arthurian sources, really. So let me just hit this really quick because this is like vaguely related. You know, classical fairy tale infused fantasy stories. I left here last podcast saying I was going to go play the 5-hour Bravely Default 2 demo. And instead I have put a bunch of hours into Dragon Quest 11 S Definitive Edition on Switch because I already own it. And if I want to just fucking play RPG, like a classic straight up turn my brain off JRPG, I already own one. And so I've been playing that every night, a few hours a night, like right before bed. I literally falling asleep as a cutscene plays and be like, let me just put this Switch over here and just fucking fade away as I like rescue
little
these two
MIDI
mage
twinkle
sisters.
tune playing.
It's literally 100. Well, no, so they did replace the MIDI in the Definitive Edition with an orchestral track, which is good because the MIDI music is so abrasive and bad. Like I feel different ways about a lot of people feel different ways about Dragon Quest music for lots of reasons, including some notes about the the composer being a complete piece of shit. Anyway, the orchestral versions are much less abrasive to me because it doesn't feel like they've just played orchestra hit 17 3 times in a row instead of actually having people play instruments. So that's been better. And then just like it is such like a little fairy tale game where like I'm just winding down. It's such a good wind down game. I'm gonna fight some slimes. I'm gonna fight some of these weird looking birds. These guys with big drums on their bellies. And
Are you playing 2D or 3D?
I'm playing 3D. It was designed in 3D originally. I think the 2D stuff is funny and like it's interesting that they did all the cutscenes over in 2D and that's a fun thing that they did. And there is a section of the game that is 2D because you're like going back to stuff from previous Dragon Quest games. And I've like dipped in and out of the Dragon Quest games over the years here and there, but I've never been like a diehard Dragon. Like I've put way more time into the Final Fantasy games than Dragon Quest games, and I still wouldn't even call myself like a Final Fantasy expert.
But those the Final Fantasy games have also been like far more story driven than like there are stories in the Dragon Quest, Dragon Warrior games, but like if you want drama, like Final Fantasy was where you went.
Whereas this truly feels like a warm blanket and a nice glass of milk.
Here's a hero. Bed. There is a villain.
There is a villain.
Go
there
beat
is
him.
a shitty, and
Get
it's a very episodic storytelling thing where like, okay, I'm rolling into this town. What's popping off here? Okay, there is a horse race coming up, and the prince needs to win the horse race to prove that he's ready to become the heir to the throne, but he sucks at horses. How are we going to help him like cheat and win this race?
Sounds like you need to introduce some political reforms to that village rather than help that prince win that horse race.
I think I'm going to help him win that horse race, and then I'm going to leave with Sylvando, the fabulous circus performer who's in town, and he's enjoying my party and be the coolest character ever written. I hope. I don't know. He seems dope from what I've met of him so far. It seems it's just been a salve. It's just been like, I feel like by the time I get to the end of my days, I at the end of my days sounds much more grim than I intended.
As Austin Walker winds down
as
the life of Walker.
I just felt like maybe before I wind down in life, I should beat one Dragon Quest game and really.
Well, it might take, given those games are like 100 hours long, it might take the life of Walker to get to the end of
totally. And listen, I know what's going to happen is I'm going to get 30 hours in and then put it down because I'm distracted by something else. That's how this works. But I do like having it as this thing that's like, I boot it up. I put on an audiobook of Borges short stories, and this is it. I'm winding the fuck down tonight, baby.
That is such a vibe, dude. That sounds so relaxing.
It's been an all right week in terms of going to bed. It's been an all right,
in terms
relaxing.
of going to bed, mood. I get that.
Classic Homer Simpson, I got some work to do around the bed situation. So yeah, that's, and I'm going to just say it. This is a better outcome than if I had played that Bravely Default 2 demo.
Yes.
Because in some ways, I wasn't playing this for covers. I felt like I should mention it, but like, I might have a better chance of continuing to put hours in this. Whereas I would have played Bravely Default 2 for the 5-hour demo or whatever, and then been like, I've played it. I'm going to say 3 things that Cado already said last week, and then I'm going to be done with it. And that's going to be basically 5 wasted hours. That game wasn't going to help me go to sleep. I was going to be taking notes on that game. This game is just like, boop, done. Love it.
It's on. I think it's on Game Pass as well.
Oh, I think it is. Yeah, because I almost got it, and I was like, I can't play that shit from bed.
Yeah, you can. Yes, you can. You gotta get one of those backbones for your phone.
That's a whole thing.
Oh, man.
You're right. You're not wrong. But
Hey,
anyway,
this reminds me, because my work laptop died again, because I wore through the W key.
Fun.
It just came off. I was like, the W key's sticking now. And then it just popped off. And it still works now. It works better because now it can just touch the actual thing the key rests on. But you have to really get your finger in there. So it's like W, boom, with your pinky in it. So, Austin, I remember you got a leather laptop, if memory serves.
I did. I'm still using it. It's
How did that
fine.
work
I don't
out?
like. It's been fine. I'm still using it. It's still good. I've not like reported back on it because it's just it's a laptop. I like it, but like I wouldn't. Now
Do you
it's
like
been
that
a year-
hinge, that little surf hinge thing?
I haven't had opportunity to use it because where the fuck am I except my own apartment where I'm surrounded by big screens to watch stuff on? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How does it not
What's up?
overheat? It's leather.
It in fact is one of the coolest laptops I've ever had.
What?
In terms of it not
every
making my
level.
lap or like my, you know what I mean? It does not. Don't ask me.
Do you think so?
I'm
I
not
have
a
2
scientist.
questions.
Yes.
One, do you think it would be a cool sort of accoutrement that people would like ask you about if you were out in public with it?
I
where
can't.
it's like,
I don't know because I haven't had the opportunity to test it because we're in a fucking
You're
lockdown.
bragging about how you're just out there in a light jacket. Get out there with
Yeah, but
your
I'm not-
laptop.
I'm not
and
bringing
be
a
like,
laptop
hey,
out
Out
ask me
there in a
about-
going on
light
walks.
jacket, hugging people and spitting it in their mouths or whatever. He's just going for a walk.
Now, yeah, if we were post COVID, you know I'd be spitting people's mouths and asking them what they thought of my leather laptop.
It's been so long since I've spit in someone's mouth. So, and do you-
Anyway, my real thing here is at this point, unless they release a new one of those things with updated like interior, what the internals, I would not buy it because it's just going to not be what you need at this point. There's ways to connect this to previous parts of the conversation, and we're not going to do it. We're going to move off the laptop conversation before we get banned on iTunes. Okay, Rob?
Wow.
Rob has had to step away from the microphone. Patrick, you've been playing a game called Gnosia. Tell me about that.
Man, I don't know what's going on in that game.
I hear it's like Go
Gnosia
ahead.
is so it was this like this visual novel that just like popped up out of nowhere in a Nintendo Indie Direct. I don't think it was in. I don't know if it was in the proper Nintendo Direct or whatever. But anyways, like the pitch of it was like, what a visual novel about Among Us, like where you are a group that is trying to figure out an infiltrator, and you are voting people out. And so I've played like 2 hours of this over the weekend, and I genuinely don't know what's going on purpose. The game is meant to be confusing. Like this game opens, you hit start, and you start to get a text crawl. And text crawls in a game or any media is like, all right, we're setting up the world. Here's what's going on. This text scroll just scrolls right past you. It goes at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and you can read a couple sentences as it's going past, but it is like as someone is like winding it past as fast as possible, and then a character appears and goes like, "Don't worry about any of that shit. Like you're good. Like welcome to the spaceship. You're here." Why are you here? Not sure. 2 people here are infected. We're going to vote someone to go to sleep and like, let's fucking go. Wait, hold on a second. You need to invest in some stats. You don't know what any of these stats do. You want charm. You want intelligence. You want analysis. Maybe, maybe not. Like, don't
about
worry about
luck?
it. Just put some points into those things and like, let's get moving. And
you skipped the bit where it says select your favorite color. Does that matter? Is that important?
I don't know. Sure, maybe. You can throw it in. It's just like, here's an interface. And it's like, people are talking. Do you want to cast doubt on someone? Do you want to defend someone? Like, I don't know. Do I? And so you just kind of like start poking at these things. You have like a whole, you can look through your dialogue trees or like the dialogue that's happened. The game is meant to overwhelm you. Like it is throwing a ton of things at you. It is putting you in a situation that you don't understand. And then what happens is It is like Among Us, in which like there are 5 turns. And during these 5 turns, and it says in the corner like what turn you're in, and it's like 5 conversations that are going to occur in which you can like cast doubt on someone. If someone is casting doubt on someone else, you can defend them or like join the chorus of doubt. And then at the end of that, you're going to vote, and you don't know what the vote is going to be. And if it's a tie vote, you can put 2 people into cold storage. You can let those 2 people go.
Cold storage like death,
like cryostasis.
Okay, but is it like that's voting them out? You're voting them into cold storage.
Yeah, into cold storage, and then you go on to the next round.
And is this because they presumably have some sort of like thing-like creature inside of them?
Like what you? I don't even. I keep forgetting how to pronounce Gnosis. Right? Is that how we're saying the game?
I think the name of this game is Gnosia. So I don't know what they.
Yeah, so I think the Gnosia is some sort of. I'm not sure, like a virus or an alien parasite. It's like
they're strong cell phones.
That's what it is, actually. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, you're locking them up.
Yes, and so like if you lock up the wrong person, then someone might die because you didn't catch the right person, and then they can kill someone. And by the round ends if you have managed to clear out the 2 people who are infected, or you don't, and then those infected outnumber the uninfected, and then the round is over because they've lost. And so you'll get to an end of a round, and it's just like, yep, you lost. Hit A to continue. And then what comes up is it says loop 2. And then you're just thrown back in. And it is not the case that you are just, okay, take what like live, die, repeat. Like just like take what you knew from before, apply it going forward. You're gaining.
It is not the case, you said. So that it doesn't just repeat.
No. You like immediately when you start, it's like, here's a new character. Well, okay. So I'm going to spoil something like very early on.
Is it this motherfucker?
The alien?
Yeah,
just like a gray alien that's got.
And he says, "Come on, bud, don't judge a book by its cover. You know, this is just. Well, I got reasons for looking like this. Okay,
I bet you do.
Yes.
I bet you do. Got
so
reasons.
holding a gun.
Luke, by the way, he's holding a
just like a straight up
gun.
50s like sci-fi black and white like I believe this is loop 2. I think this is like the set that you come in, and what you think is like when it says loop, you think, oh, I'm going to get the same characters, same setup, take that institutional knowledge and like try and push things in a different direction. And you walk in and there's just this gray alien motherfucker, and like one character goes like, you look pretty weird. And then another character goes, oh, I don't know that we should be judging books by their cover. Like what's wrong with how he looks? And
everyone else is an anime character in this game. Everyone else is like high fashion sci-fi anime.
Yeah, you're like, I'm in a visual novel. Like when I think in my head, visual novel, like these are these characters, a bunch of eccentrics that, have different like personality, like really strong, bold personality types that fall into like distinct kind of like nearly archetypical categories, but like very much of like one of these games. And like the Gray from X-Files shows up. And that's how it establishes its tone. Is like, I still don't know what's going on. I'm like 7 or 8 loops in. I start in, I'll get different cutscenes. Have I influenced these cutscenes appearing based on my actions in the past? I don't know. Every time you finish a loop, you get experience points that you can then invest in new skills. I don't know what those skills are meaningfully doing on a moment to moment basis. But you do get what I do see what's happening is that if you pull up like character profiles, there are things that are like specific traits about characters that are going to unlock. So my guess is that you're just kind of blindly pushing forward, experiencing like new dialogue scenes. There are in between rounds, you can like go visit with a character and have like a one-on-one conversation with them that can unlock. You might understand that like, oh, you're a character class this time. You're the engineer, and like the engineer gives you a special feature during the like kind of conversation moments. And that seems to be like where it's going, but I've just never, the game is just so purposely overwhelming in a really fun way, where I do think some people will find it abrasive, where the game is just like, it's not that it's not holding your hand, but it's just like kind of throwing a kitchen sink at you and like seeing like how you take it. And what you should do is just like, at least what I've found so far is just keep pushing forward. Like, this is what it is. Like, just get to the next loop. Another weird thing's going to happen. And like, don't worry. Like, I'm just assigning random stats, and maybe that'll mean something at some point, but it does appear to be the case that every loop gets you experience, so you can just keep investing in stats. So my guess is the stats are like just a red herring and like don't have anything to do with anything, but maybe not. So I'm having a delightful time with it. It is just so strange. Not what I expected at all.
Are you ever the Gnosia? Have you ever been the
I mean, I've definitely been voted off into storage.
Okay.
I don't know that I in the loops that I've played, I don't know if I've like been assigned to be that or like been infected.
And it's the same characters each time. It's the same like
no.
Oh.
The crew, you come into a loop. Like this is where I finished last night, where I came in and it was just 2 brand new characters that had not been in a loop prior. So once you start a loop, you can hit like the L button and it'll show like, hey, here's the cast of characters this time. So it's like I will not be surprised if what actually turns out is that there are like very little actual gameplay mechanics, and what I'm doing is just playing a linear story that has been presented with a bunch of like artificial gameplay mechanics as a way of like giving you something to do as you're just like pressing A through text. I don't know if that's the case. I'm willing to entertain that like that is a possibility, that this is all just a facade and an illusion. The stats don't mean anything. The perks you're unlocking for the character sheets don't mean anything.
Does it feel like you're able to push and pull on who gets voted off, actually?
This early, I have so few like there are literal like gameplay features you can unlock. Like being the engineer allows you to do certain things. It seems like yes, like that's probably the arc of the game, is unlocking more of this stuff. Then you get enough knowledge that you can sort of like break the loop and like find out whatever that is. But it is strange. Like I don't know that I've played a stranger game in like a long time, especially given that so many games you go in kind of knowing what you're gonna get. And I thought like your pitch to me was like, hey, this looks like a visual novel with Among Us. Seems like it might like be your jam after 13 Sentinels. Like yeah, I saw that trailer. I'm gonna check that out. And then just like playing it and just like guffawing, like it's like, what am I even? I don't even know if it's good. Like I think it is, but like I just can't. Like I'm trying to pin the game down, and like I just don't know what it is. And that's actually the delight. Is like I need to know what this is, and to form an opinion about it. But even if I don't, like the adventure of figuring out like what's even going on here has been really fun. So I'll report back when I find out what that.
Please.
I'm desperate to know.
What is my alien friend's name? Shigamichi. Like I'll let you know what.
Please let
he
me know
seems
what's up with this
shady, but
alien.
I keep defending him. Like I'm just like, you know what? But I don't know if the loop changes. Like, are you good? Yeah, I don't know. So
Shigamichi shows up at your door one evening, like, hey, could you hold this gun for me for a couple days? Thanks, bro. I don't know you too well, but I feel you have an interesting story. Sure.
Well, because often you'll be in these conversation rounds and I don't have a play. Like, so you can choose to make an action, which is to defend and then choose who you want to defend, to doubt whoever you want to doubt, whoever's in the cast, or you can just do an option that's called wait and see, which is to let someone else make a move. And so it's like, you know, in the same it's gamifying like actually a lot of the strategic decisions you will make in playing a deception game, you know, like Among Us, which is like, actually, I'm just going to like hang back and then needle someone at the end or like join a chorus so that hopefully I won't get voted on and like, you know, or like push people in the direction. So it's interesting to watch that be turned into almost like a turn-based sort of like conversation loop. And I'll be curious to see how the mechanics influence that going forward. Because often a lot of it would be just like, why would I doubt anyone? I don't know what I'm doubting. And so I'm just like, wait and see. And that's just like a valid option to get to like the next part of it. It's just, again, I can't tell if it's like a sprawling diagram in front of me or if it actually is just a left to right narrative that has dressed it up in a way that's really entertaining, which would still be cool if that is ultimately what it is.
If you're still having your time through it, totally.
But yeah, so I think it's only out on Switch right now. I don't think it's on anything else, but it's a trip. I don't even know if I can sit here and be like, you should pick it up. But like, if I don't know, are you bored? You want a game to just like take you for a ride? Like, you know what? Like this one will take you for a ride.
Sure. Anyone else want to shout out anything before we take a peek at some questions? I got a good question here that I want to get to. So
I started watching the Knick, and that's good. That's all.
I've
heard that show is great.
The show is Rob's acne food. It's Rob's acne. See what it's
wow.
It's if you want to see the facial expression that Clive Owen makes when he has to pretend he's being given a shot of cocaine into his penis, I'd recommend the Knick.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
It's got a great smash cut where he's like on his. So the Knick is about the 1900 New York, the beginning of modern medicine, the Knickerbocker Hospital, essentially. It's a really great. All the episodes are directed by Steven Soderbergh, so it looks really beautiful. And Clive Owen is a star as a doctor who's just straight up addicted to cocaine because he's trying to essentially like force modernity into being. The show opens up on a failed C-section. And like that really brings home like what's the state of medicine is in. Like this would have been, if they had succeeded, like the first C-section and they were not able to figure it out. Or the first C-section in a modern hospital that is called as such, essentially. And like by the end of the episode, he's got to go to a surgery and he's in withdrawals and he's like, nurse, you got to shoot cocaine into my penis. And it just shows the face he makes and then smash cut into him just being a diva in the surgical theater. And it's incredible. The drama of the show is like, if you really want to know about, if you're like a person like me who just Googles things like books about the history of abortion, this is a show for you.
Lesson learned. Okay.
I mean, I admire that show so much and I enjoyed it so much, but at the same time, like, it's so gnarly.
Oh my God. Like, you will see all these surgical procedures and modern medicine starts out rough.
And it's the omnipresent sense of tragedy, right? Which like the series just continues to crescendo towards. Like the characters are so badly compromised. And you might be thinking like, surely there are redemption arcs in play. Sorta.
Well, it's 1900
New
York. Like, one of the major conflicts in the first episode is that the board wants to hire a particular doctor as deputy chief. And then as soon as people meet him, they realize that his illustrious education in Europe is actually an indicator that he is a black man. And that becomes like most of the content of the first two episodes is Algernon Edwards just being like, y'all are surprised that my white peers are treating me like shit. And it's because you don't understand what racism is like. Like, I'm not surprised at all, to come from London and Paris where I was treated like a peer to go back to America and be assigned the basement as my office. It's a great show, but it is very depressing.
I hear good things. Yeah, great. All right, I'm going to read this email that is not signed. So it's an anonymous email. Advice for Rob regarding salad dressing. Rob said that he would eat more salad if making the dressing wasn't such an obstacle, and I wanted to share the dressing we have in our fridge.
What was that flourish on obstacle, Austin?
What?
There's a little flourish on obstacle. I felt kind of judged.
Well, that's how it was written. Okay, first, this OXO salad dressing shaker was a game changer for me. Got it as a gift for my partner a year ago, and this is a link to this salad dressing shaker. It's an OXO Grips salad dressing shaker. It comes in 1 cup and 1.5 cup sizes. This recipe is for the 1 cup size, but can be scaled in either direction. Mince 1 small shallot and drop into the bottom of the dressing shaker. Cover with lemon juice and let macerate for about 10 minutes. Add black pepper to taste. Small handful of dried or fresh tarragon. Add 1 teaspoon of Dijon mustard. Add soy sauce. I got this idea from Kenji Lopez Alt. It is key to reach the 1/3 cup mark. Add extra virgin olive oil to the 2/3 mark. Add vegetable oil to the 1 cup mark. Screw top, shake vigorously, taste, and add salt or pepper to taste. I find that it tastes even better after a night in the fridge. After it's been a couple of days in the fridge, the oil will firm up, so I usually take it out about 20 minutes before lunch and submerge it in water. I use a quart deli container that the soup came in. You can use any vinegar you like instead of lemon juice, other types of mustard, herbs, oils, etc. Can add some mayo to make it a little thicker and creamier. Thanks. I want people to report back on the salad dressing recipe.
That sounds really good.
It sounds great.
It does, but even there, I'm like, but what if it's 11 at night?
Listen, Rob.
But it's already made. That's the thing. That's the point,
What you really
Rob.
got to do, though, Rob, is you got to get like a good bottle with a spout, like a bartender spout on it. Add 2 of them. 1 olive oil, 1 balsamic. All you got to do at that point, drizzle it. And then that is your salad dressing.
That's also a good point.
There you go.
See,
That's what my dad does.
I believe in you, Rob.
My dad's very wise.
The thing is that Rob likes the process.
Yeah, Rob's fussy.
Oh, yeah.
Rob loves the fuss.
It's true.
I am attracted and repelled to the fuss. This is the problem.
This is the problem. Here is the same type of email, but for Cado. Hey, Cado. After this week's podcast, I wanted to make sure you know about this stuff, and then it's just a link to buy a thing. This is from the Kewpie deep roasted sesame dressing.
Oh, wow.
I've tried it as a dressing and a marinade. It works for both. It might not be exactly what you're looking for, but I know some restaurants use something similar. So this
Interesting.
is the difference between Rob's acne and Cado is Cado, your problem is solved instantly. You just click this button,
$9,
hit add to cart.
good to go.
$9,
I don't think it.
good.
Unfortunately, I don't think it is because it's not really a sauce. It's definitely ginger. It's ginger. It's got carrots in it. I think. Too.
Yeah, I do know the sauce. I do
right?
know the dressing you're
I
talking about.
don't think this is it,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But
I don't think this is it either.
Now
It
who's
sounds
fussing?
great,
no, that does look.
but
No, I'm good. I have dressing in. I have a Caesar ready to go in minutes. Just take it out, take the bottle out, put it on some lettuce. That's all I need.
all right. Here's a question that comes in from Simon Sweetman, who's an incredible artist. People should go check out Simon's Twitter feed, twitter.com/SIF Sweetman. SWEETMAN, friend of the show, IMO. Hello, Waypoint crew. This is in relation to the salad dressing discussion from the last episode, 377. While I do not have any dressing recommendations for Rob, I have a salad dressing related dilemma I'm hoping you can help me with. In the before times, my housemates started an escalating prank war with their brother/brother-in-law, which all center around ranch dressing. This led to them receiving 2 very, very large bottles of ranch dressing as a prank gift this past Christmas. Instead of us doing the smarter thing and giving these bottles to a food bank or something, we opened one of them one night and are now responsible for consuming this entire bottle of ranch that takes up too much room in the fridge. None of us are that big on ranch, so please, Waypoint, help me figure out what some different ways are to use a bunch of ranch dressing relatively quickly. I don't like ranch
Put it
dressing,
all
so I'm
in the
zero
toilet.
help.
I feel like that's a really good use of ranch dressing. I don't like thick dressing. I'm like really just in terms of dressing my
Who's
salad.
fussy now?
In terms
Okay.
of dressing my salad, all I need is balsamic and vinegar. I don't know, like that's it. That balsamic and olive oil.
Who? Oh, I'm probably in the minority here, but I use that shit for chicken wings, buffalo wings, instead of fucking blue cheese because I hate blue cheese. It's stinky.
Wow, a coward. I see.
Yeah, that's me. Hold on, I don't like brie. I don't like. There's all sorts of cheeses I don't like because there's like
Wait,
an aftertaste.
did you just say brie?
Yes. Fuck brie.
Wow.
Give me cheddar. Give me Gouda. Give me feta. Like salty cheeses.
God,
fucking
I can't
queso
believe William
fresco.
Cado's a piece of shit today.
That little, you just did that. You just,
Wow.
Cado just dropped.
All
How
Cado
did
just
it drop
offended
the-
large swaths of our audience.
It's true, but also dropped the hottest sample in hip hop in 2021. That like. What were the 3 cheeses
too
you said you
mellow.
wanted?
Just like
Cheddar,
take
give me
that
Gouda,
little
give me
bit,
feta.
report back.
Yeah, give me feta. Let's go.
Fucking love feta. Queso
why do
fresco.
you-
I love it.
How did you come to be this person?
I don't know.
Do you just not like stinky soft cheeses? Is that basically?
yeah, essentially. Like I don't like that taste. I like salty cheeses, like any salty cheese that doesn't have that specific aftertaste that you get from like from those types of like the brie. The I don't really like goat cheese. Goat cheese is on the line. I can kind of get with goat cheese sometimes, but it really depends on the context. That's the closest I'll get to that. What? I have
Goat
taste.
cheese needs good context.
It does.
So this hurts
Sometimes
as a
goat cheese-
person who was once a cheese lover and now cannot even look at a piece of cheese. Because like all those
Kyle's just
stinky,
wasting his good gut.
smelly cheeses, yeah, give me your gut microbes. Like I want I want to be able to break down smelly cheese again.
Oh, I'm sorry, but the right context for goat cheese is wrapped around a grape and then rolled in some nuts. It's delicious.
I
You
mean,
should
that
try
is
it.
That
delicious.
does sound good.
On a
very
little
good.
piece of apple.
Great.
Really
Ooh.
That sounds good too. Yeah.
Goat cheese beets salad. Like it's just the easiest, simplest, like nuts, beets, goat cheese.
You're done.
Sure,
Yeah,
that
it's
sounds
perfect.
good. Yeah, but
Cado,
yeah.
though, I feel like you haven't fully appreciated the constellation of bries that are out there. There are boring bries, and I think you would enjoy those. Like very mild. Sorry, I don't mean to be judgmental. They're not boring. They're mild. They're
Okay.
creamy. I
Yeah.
think you might dig that.
Look, I I've tried brie so many, specifically brie too, because my wife loves brie. This is a fucking issue in her household. She loves that shit.
Okay, that's what's going on here.
Look, I mean, it's fine. She can eat all the brie she wants. I'm just like not gonna help. So she's got to get the smaller sizes, or else it's gonna go like you don't want stuff growing on there if it waits too long. But I've tried, as far as I can tell, it's specifically the aftertaste that you know like the way that you can like. It's the smelliness. It's not even the smell. Like I don't really think it smells that bad, but it's just like the way that cheddar is all like it's all in the bite.
Forward.
It's all like you get
Flavor.
all of the taste at once.
Boom, there it is. It's
That's
done.
it.
Yes.
It's the aftertaste on all those other cheeses that I mentioned that I do not like. If I could get rid of that and like
Is
it was awful.
the aftertaste or is it aftertaste period?
No, the aftertaste, because there are aftertastes I'm fine with. It's just the aftertaste of that type of soft cheese that I cannot. I'm just like it makes me gag. Like I'm like,
Will not abide.
I do not like it.
Yeah. That's
So,
fair.
Ranch is my go-to buffalo wing thing instead of blue cheese.
I've forgotten the question.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that too. I was like, oh,
I
that's
just
why we
really
ended up in
wanted
this
to
bad
know
place.
everything about Cado's taste in cheese after a while. I'm very fascinated by this.
Simon, sorry, we're not helping you anymore. We're helping Cado.
He needs
So just
our
make
help.
yourself a bunch of buffalo wings if that's your thing. I guess that's how you can use a lot of
But
ranch.
none of them like ranch that much is the problem.
Right.
I think they need something transformative with this.
Transformative.
Transformative work.
A transformative work of ranch.
I bet you there's something on that bottle. They always do that shit too,
Oh, they
right?
do.
The like,
No,
here's a
but this sounds
ridiculous
like-
way to
sorry.
use ranch.
They do that on regular bottles.
Sure.
This sounds like a surplus bottle of ranch where like they expect you to know. You buying this, you know what you're doing with this ranch.
already. Fuck.
I think you just got to get rid of that. I think. See now you're getting pranked. You're getting pranked too hard. Like where now you're like
Yeah.
you're living with this.
You've
this
worked
ranch
yourself
you
into a
don't like.
shield.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's ironic ranch.
Right. It's fine. Whatever. Move on. Okay.
When I put
here's
in
the
ranch
actual-
recipe, the second thing that comes up is ranch recipe for wings. So, it's not that far
No,
off.
you're not wrong. That's a common thing. Here's the actual dilemma: is in COVID time. Without COVID, this would be so easy to deal with. You would just have a big event where you had wings and cut up vegetables to dip into things, and you just put out a bunch of ranch. And hey, whatever doesn't get used, well, it's already been used in the sense that
Such
it's
a
been.
different life.
Yeah.
I'm trying to imagine the world like, oh, if only COVID weren't here, I would solve this problem the easiest way. I would hold
there
a
would
house
have been
party.
There would have been a Super Bowl party by now. There would have been
Right.
someone's birthday. You would have find a fucking excuse to use this ranch. You would have found it. If you were so committed, you'd be like, "Oh, I know. I'll bring dips to this party. That will be the thing I bring." And what you really need is this one bottle of.
Wait, what do you make? Can you make, no, that's different. Onion. What do you make onion dip out of? Do you start on with sour cream or ranch?
I don't know. I don't know this.
Point is, I think you got to get rid of that ranch because like that ranch is owning you now.
Yeah, agreed. Good luck with that. All right, one more question here. This one comes in from Devon or Devin, probably Devin. Hello. Over the past few months, I've been clearing my backlog of the Souls games. I fell in love with and have played each game at launch since the Prepare to Die edition came to PC, but I'll admit I never completed one until recently. The first 10 to 20 hours of these games are comfort food. They pique my curiosity and challenge me in a rare and deeply satisfying way. But I always hit a wall. That's where Waypoint Radio comes in. I listened to old episodes to help me fall asleep, and hearing you talk about how good Sekiro is forced me to return to it back in January. I had been stuck on Genichiro since 2019, but was furious to find out that the real Sekiro hadn't even been started for me yet. The next day, I inflicted Dragon Rot on many NPCs to no avail. Stuck in my own personal Groundhog Day style 5-minute period, I put on another Waypoint radio episode to keep me company using the PlayStation Spotify app and kept banging my head against the wall. Suddenly, everything changed. When you play your own audio on PS Spotify, the system intelligently removes the music track from the game audio while maintaining the voice and sound effects tracks. Now, when I entered the boss fight, there was no orchestra telling me to keep my shit together, just your voices. firecrackers, and Makiri counters. Where I was struggling to complete the first phase before, I was now making it halfway through the second, then to the third, then achieving a final death blow on my second try after reaching the third phase. I'd done it. I began to play with music while making my way through each level and would switch to your podcast at boss fights. Each time, it put me in a zen state that pulled me through the entire game. When I reached the final boss, I attempted a normal run, but couldn't cut it without your discourse to keep me calm and focused.
Oh, no.
I've since applied the same philosophy to Dark Souls 3 with identical results and am playing through Bloodborne now. Do my successes still count, or have I made impure the sanctity of FromSoft's library? Thank you and enjoy your week. Best, Devin F. This is incredible.
Wow.
Rob's hand almost touched the camera there. What's up, Rob?
I'm just.
Or are you just reaching out?
Blessing. I'm
laying of hands. Go with God, my child.
That's
I'm
awesome.
so thrilled that we have that ability. This is the best thing this is the kindest thing anyone's ever said about the podcast.
I can see how, like, I mean, the soundtracks of all those games and the boss fight specifically are big vocal orchestral things that are meant to like heighten the drama, but also probably exasperate, that classic moment in any Souls fight of like, when you're doing well and you can beat this, and then that sort of thing like forces you to make an error. And I just wonder if like that disconnect from that particular aesthetic, it's fascinating. I'm like curious. Take this to other games. Like take this out of the Souls game.
Take it out of the game. Take it to other things in your life. Heat check our podcast
while you're making a salad dressing. Just like put on the pot and like see where the ingredients take you.
Go ask for a raise. Excuse me.
Earbuds in.
Yeah.
Just ask your boss. Can I just play this at like a low key, low volume while we're having this talk?
This is very good. I love this so much. I think this totally works. This makes sense to me. There definitely are times when like I think a lot about games that have like fishing in them, where there's a sound cue associated with the fishing, whereas there's a specific sound that triggers when you're supposed to hit the like reel in button or whatever. I will sometimes close my eyes and just go by the sound cue because my eyes will deceive me. And for whatever reason, I'm better at just hearing the sound cue. So like I think that there's playing around with the what sounds and visuals are available to you as well within the realm of fairness inside of FromSoft games, especially. So you got those wins. Those are your wins.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be part of them in any way we could be, but
it's part of the collaborative spirit of Souls anyways. Instead of summoning people in, you're summoning our voices, our auras.
That's so sweet. It's very kind. All right. On that note, I don't think we're going to get sweeter than that. You can find me on Twitter at Austin_Walker. You can follow the show, twitter.com/waypoint, waypointadvice.com. Gita, where can people find you?
At XOXO Gossip Gita.
Rob.
Point is, I'm looking for a nice laptop that I can just sort of bring anywhere, bring to bed, and play like games off Steam streaming, things like that. But also needs to have a couple USB ports so I can plug in like peripherals, etc. But that's kind of what I'm in for. So you can let me know some recommendations for a good like lightweight gaming laptop, ergonomically appropriate for all sorts of settings. At Rob Zachney on Twitter.
Patrick.
At Patrick Klepek.
And Cado.
At A_Cado_appears.
All right, that's going to do it for us. As always, thank you to Bowen for letting us use the track Miss You off the EP Pale Machine. Find out more about that at waypoint.zone/BOEN. Until this Friday will be a new episode, an actual Waypoint Radio episode, not a reset episode. We're out of the reset break at this point. Thank you to everyone who listened to those.
Reset era is over.
Show. That's not not true. That's a different thing, Cado. We can't say that. You're going to ban us.
Oh, no.
All right. Well, on that note, fuck capitalism. Go home. Peace.
I literally forgot that
Did you?
Yes, I just said the recent era, like the era of our podcast that was recent panels. Oh, I don't go there very often, honestly. So
Why would
I
you?
forget that it exists.
Yeah, fair.
Oh.
I can't wait to talk to you about just everything about this game. Just everything
Patrick.
about this game.
Yeah.
It's
Patrick
so
just
good.
needs to hurry up.
Patrick, what's he doing? Playing with his freaking kids?
Has kids, man.
I've got babies. Beautiful, precious children. Oh, love and light of my life. I just checked how much time I put into this game. 90 hours.
Jesus Christ.
At least once it idled overnight by accident. But that was only one 24-hour period. So it's really like at minimum like 84 hours.
Oh no. The little ball thing on the top of my French press has cracked.
Oh no.
Good.
I have been
You need
kind of
that.
wanting a new one.
There's-
It's like, well, into the trash with you.
Honestly, perfect.
Maybe this is the moment to get into the Chemex bullshit.
Yo, I have a Chemex and I love it. I love my Chemex.
The only here's the one problem.
Ah.
I don't like delicate coffees. I don't
No.
like delicate little flavors. I don't like,
You don't like tasting
layers
notes?
to my coffee. I
You just
want
wanna
it to
get
be like,
just boom.
yeah, but not too much.
You want to get assaulted by your coffee at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You want
I
John
want
Madden
my
to be the one
coffee
introducing
to be
you
my
to
bully.
coffee.
You want to get bullied by your coffee. I'm not going to say what I want
Yeah.
to say.
Uh-huh.
I'm just not going to say it. Mommy. Anyway.
All right.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good timing, Patrick.
I was just letting everyone's coffee convo
Jesus
play out. You know,
Christ,
I
your
didn't feel
mic.
like I needed
Patrick,
to.
Patrick, you gotta dial it back, or maybe you're on the wrong mic, but it's
Yeah,
loud.
it
It's
is
possible.
very
the
loud.
loudest you could possibly be. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's not fine.
Well, it's something.
Yeah. It's Patrick.
Everyone take a. I don't blame me for Windows problems. I think.
Yeah, I get it. I do
think I'm,
understand.
like, out here, like,
we just had to
put it up
stop you
in-
from continuing to talk.
I just like to put it up to 94 just to see what happens to the
just
mic.
for funsies.
Yeah. Just as a little treat. Yeah, my shit in Audacity was up all the way from the multiple Google meetings that we had it last week.
That shit sucks. I cannot stand that shit just does that.
I know. It's the most frustrating fucking thing. Ay, ay, ay.
Who decided to give computers autonomy?
Who decided that? I don't like
Ooh.
it.
All right. Are we ready to clap?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let's do.
Yes.
Okay, 15. Let's just do it.
Damn. Ooh,
Wow, came right to the line.
Yeah, that's a
was
classic.
ready.
Just jump right into it.